Hello folks, welcome to El Canal Sharon Jose. Today we're gonna talk about why is your car using more fuel. So you're driving just like normal, but your car is starting to use more fuel than previous years. So now what can start causing this, even the wear and tear on the equipment. So now we're gonna talk about a few items that can cause this high consumption of fuel. So that way you can address this and you can start bringing your car to a lower fuel consumption. And with that, let's get started. So the first component that can make the engine to spend more fuel is your tires. So if your tires are not up to the pressure that it needs to be and they're lower, then that means that the tire is actually running a little low and it's creating that feeling of you walking on the sand. So you're walking to the beach and you're walking on the sidewalk and then suddenly you transition to the sand, then you can feel the difference. So that's how those tires can react to. So they give when they're to the pressure that they need to be, then they're gonna be rolling normal. But if they're low on pressure and all four tires are like that, then that's gonna give that feeling of walking on the beach. So it's gonna take more effort for that car to keep on moving. That's why your engine is going to be spending more fuel. So most of the modern cars, they got a dash a warning light that they can give you even what specific tire is low on pressure. So if you're ignoring that, then if you have the light on, then one of the tires or all four tires are low on pressure, and that's making your car to spend more fuel. So if you see the light, or if you have a gauge, check the tire pressure on all four tires, and if you need to bring it up to the pressure that the tire requires, then bring it up to that pressure, so that way you can start saving on fuel, because low pressure on the tires can actually make you spend money. And imagining through the whole year, then you can save a couple $100 just on fuel. So low pressure on tires can be the first item that can make your engine spend more fuel. So the air filter in your car engine can be the other component that can create a high use on fuel, or lower the efficiency of that car. So these filters, their job is to purify the air that goes into the engine, so that way when the air goes through and it goes into the internal components, it's clean. So if these filters are clogged or there's too much debris on them, so that the engine is going to actually ask for more air, but the fuel is being injected, that is going to be off balance on air and fuel mixture. So these act like a vacuum cleaner. So if your vacuum cleaner at home, you're vacuuming and then it gets filled up, and then it won't do any more suction because there's cloggage or there's too much debris in there. Same thing to these apply. So if these guys are just filthy, they're going to start making your engine spend more fuel and less efficiency. So if you haven't replaced your air filter for your engine on your car, it's time to take a look at it. And it also depends on how often you have to do that replacement, because you might live on the city or you might be living in a country road that there's more dirt and more debris. So it also depends on where you live. So but take a look at the air filter on the engine of your car, because it might be dirty and you think that it's clean, and that might be the problem, or one of the problems, that your car is spending too much fuel while driving. The spark plugs can be the problem to a high fuel consumption on your car. And these components, they're in charge of delivering the spark at the internal combustion chamber. So there's a fuel, air, and spark, and the compression made by the mechanical. So all those components come together to make the explosion and send the cylinder or the piston down. So it is a repetition. So if these components are dirty, damaged, or worn out, or they're not gapped right, they can create a low efficiency in your engine. So you can even notice a loss of power. So because there's not enough, the spark is so weak that the engine is not performing to the standards. So another thing, it could be a bad spark plug wire. Some older cars, they got spark plug wires. It could be tear, there be a cut, and then the spark, before it makes it to the spark plug, is jumping into the block because there's metal, so it's grounding there. So then you got one cylinder that is not actually firing, or sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, because the spark plug is not getting the spark, and because of damaged wire. So that could be another problem. If you haven't replaced the spark plug wires and they dried out, you might want to replace those and check your spark plugs so your fuel efficiency comes back up to normal again. So other components that can actually make your car spend more fuel than normal, it can be a sensor on the engine. And usually those sensors, there's a lot of sensors, and there's exhaust sensors, intake sensors, and some other sensors that are equipped into the engine so it can actually try to be efficient. So if one of those sensors is bad, the whole operation is going to be discalibrated. So there's going to be some of the sensors that are going to be asking for more fuel because that sensor is not working properly. So the whole consumption is going to be higher. Actually, in the dash, there's going to be lights that might come on, like a check engine, service engine soup. And if you see a light come on and it hasn't been there and it just started coming on, and you notice the high use of fuel on your car than normal, that might be a light telling you something is wrong with the engine. So you might want to scan or do a diagnose on what sensor is causing that light to come on. So that might be that sensor might be the problem for that high use of fuel than normal on your car. So that light is telling you there's something wrong or something is not right on your car, but you've been ignoring it and you've been driving your car, and that light is actually trying to save you money. So by replacing the sensor, so that way you spend less fuel. So if one sensor is bad, there might be a light coming on, or if you have a light in the dash that is on, find out what the light means and why is it on. So if it's a check engine light, there might be something wrong in the engine, and that's the cause of that sensor or whatever component is causing that light to come on for a high use of fuel than normal. Extra weight that we don't need on the cars can be the possible cause for the high consumption of fuel on your car. So with all the other stuff that we have mentioned, and you take some of the weight that you don't need to have in the car. For example, in our case, we carry tools, we carry this, we carry that, and there's some heavy stuff that we carry around. And if we leave them there for a long period of time, it's just more weight that the engine has to be pulling and from one point to another point and then back, and that's going to be actually in a long run is going to be converted to fuel consumption. So if you don't need that weight on your car, take that off, take stuff that you don't need on your car, so that way you can actually make room for stuff that you are actually going to put in there. So in the long run, it's going to help you because all that weight that you don't need in there, you take it off, and with the other stuff that we have mentioned, if you do to your car, it's going to actually increase the amount of fuel that you're going to save. Reducing weight that you don't need in your car is going to make your car to actually spend less fuel in the long run as well. Having your AC on your car running even when it is a nice breezy day, that can actually transfer into consumption of fuel in your engine because that component requires power. It needs to move somehow, and the engine has to work more to make the component work. So that transfers into fuel consumption. So if you have a nice day and you're driving around and you have the AC turn on all the time, that's going to transfer into fuel consumption. So this is components that are added to the engine, but if those components are not being used, then that means that the engine doesn't have to work as hard as when those components turn on. So when they're off, the engine works easier. When they're turned on, then the engine has to put more effort. That transfers into fuel consumption. So in the long run, then you start noticing the difference with no use or use of the AC all the time. So just to keep that in mind, because these components, they require energy to be up to operate, and energy transfers into money. And well, folks, hopefully this video was useful and helpful on why your car might be spending more fuel than normal, because some of these components, not just because your car is a little older, that means that that's a problem. Some of these components might need to be replaced or serviced, so that way you get an idea of what needs to be done or what you can do. So with that said, folks, for friends who are watching our video haven't subscribed to our channel, please subscribe. If you like our video, give us thumbs up, share it, and we'll see you soon with more videos here on the canal de Chano Jose.